Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Good evening, and welcome to our special Halloween edition of Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the horribly absurd. Tonight we continue our series of classic horror movies and their remakes. Last week, we took you to Camp Crystal Lake. This week, we are going to take a trip down memory lane to the movie that haunted your dreams on Elm Street. Beware, spoilers. Coming to you from the Boiler Room, 1-2, I'm coming for you. My name is Don. And to my right, the guy guaranteed to haunt your dreams, this is John.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
And to my left, the guy most likely to have dead bodies in his basement, this is Ken.
Hey, that's never been proven.
How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, I'm fine.
I'm doing great. Been waiting for this one.
Yeah, why is that?
Love me some Freddy.
Love you some Freddy. Tonight we are talking 1984's Wes Craven's masterpiece, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the 2010 remake.
There was a remake?
You know, and when the remake was announced, of course, I'm apprehensive. This is the third Michael Bay produced remake we've gotten. We got Texas, which we talked about. We got Friday the 13th, which I think kind of liked more than Texas, obviously, but it still wasn't a great film. And now we're going with this one. So in my book, Michael Bay's 1-1, right? This will kind of determine.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and we'll talk about it, but the remake felt more like the remake of Texas. So
kind of felt like a nightmare.
Yeah, kind of felt like a nightmare. Not the good, fun nightmares.
So how did these movies do box office wise? Was the original a stronger box office, or was the remake a stronger box office? Out of curiosity.
Well, given the time and when the remake was made, the remake was way more profitable. But if you do the inflation, I'm not sure where the original stands, but the original came in somewhere around like 57 million and the remake was like 114 maybe or something like that. We talk about it when we get into details. But it financially I think it did okay, but it got so bombed that I'm sure they were planning a sequel. You know,
they were.
Yeah, they've been planning a sequel to Friday the 13th forever, and that never came about. So
yeah, the fan hate killed any chances of a sequel of the remake. Now, Don, I know you are a Nightmare on Elm Street fanboy.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, this movie had a very big impact on me, and by this movie, of course, I'm referring to the original 1984. 1985, I think it's out on VHS. I have two older brothers. We rent it on VHS. My parents are gone. It's middle of the day. And we pop it in, and we get to Tina's death.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that scene happens, and I see her being dragged up the wall and blah, 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 I immediately freak out and run across the street and hang out with the older lady who lived across the street and kept her company and watched soap operas and stuff. So, and from that moment on, I had been traumatized by one Freddy Krueger.
And that turned into a love-hate relationship? Or?
Well, it was definitely a hate relationship. It was a while before I could go back to sleep with the lights off. Let's just say that. But yeah, and then 2 comes out, and 2's 2. I don't think I ever saw 2 in the theater. I think the first Elm Street I saw in the theater was Dream Warriors, the third one, and it's borderline my favorite next to the original. Then 4, 5, 6, they all kind of came out, and you just love them from the moment. You either love Freddy or you hate him, right? I think he's probably the more terrifying and more charismatic of the 4 killers that we're talking about, right? Jason, Leatherface, Michael Myers, and Freddy. Freddy talks.
He's first slasher with a personality.
Yeah.
He gets personal.
Yeah. So, and because of that, if you compare Freddy with all the other ones, because he has this personality, it makes him more deadly. It makes him more terrifying, right? As opposed to the other ones, Leatherface, Jason, and Michael Myers, they're all kind of like the shark from Jaws. They just kill. No rhyme, no reason.
Mm-hmm.
They just kill. So they don't have to talk, and they're menacing, and they're doing it all physically. But Freddy came in with a personality, and yeah, he's the fucking master. I think out of all of them, he is definitely my favorite.
And he feeds off of his victims' fear, not only just killing them. So the other ones just kill. This one actually, he builds up the fear because that's what feeds him and nourishes him.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing theme throughout the series, you know, and it really is prevalent in Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. Well, if you can't tell from my prop collection, I like Freddy a little bit as well.
I don't know. I don't see your prop collection. I see my newly acquired prop collection on my table in my house, 9/10 of the Law collection, and it is quite impressive. We have a Freddy hat, a statue of Freddy, a Funko Pop of Freddy, his red and green sweater, and probably the coolest prop I've ever seen. I don't want to say it's a working version, but a pretty authentic looking version of Freddy's glove.
Yeah, from trickortreatstudios.com.
There you go.
Now, I do want to give
plug.
I want to give a quick plug out to an Etsy friend of mine named Luis at Freddy K Creations, who created the hat for me, which he was nice enough to get sent here quick enough so we could have it and wear it during our podcast.
Well, thank you, Luis, so very much. That hat is awesome. So well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you saw it, Professor?
It was in the theater. Remember, it scared the pants off me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you by yourself, with a group of friends, on
It
a
had
date?
Had to be with a group of friends.
Yeah?
Yeah, had to be.
Right on. Right on. What about you there, John?
I don't remember if I saw the first one in theater or probably was a Blockbuster rental, but I was hooked from the start.
Yeah.
I just loved the idea because it was I love the storytelling in some movies, and it was such a different story, a different take on a character. You know, if you think about it, the one safe place you have is your dreams, is your sleep. And if you're not safe there, everyone has to sleep at some point.
At some point.
And so the idea of trying to stay awake to avoid this guy when eventually you're going to have to face him was just this strong idea. And it was just amazing to me. I became a fanatic of basically following whatever Wes Craven did after this.
Yeah. And, you know, R.I.P. Wes Craven, I think that this and Scream, definitely the high points. You know, there were a couple decent things in between here and there, but yeah, he was really known for the guy who created Freddy.
Yeah, and he could just tell a story as well as create these characters, create these things that violated the typical slasher rules.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with that. I was worried when I saw the second one that they were taking it in a weird direction of bringing him into the real world.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that idea, but when Dream Warriors came out, I was rehooked and even deeper in.
Yeah. 2 is generally panned. And I got to admit, it's been a long time since I've seen 2, and I remember not liking it. Have you ever seen 2, Professor? How many of them have you seen?
I've seen the first and the third, and now the remake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know that I didn't, like I said, I don't know if I've seen the first one in the theater. Second one through the rest of them I saw in the theater with my friend Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to every opening for every single one.
Yeah, I remember when the remake came out in 2010, I was all excited. Me and Keenan and a bunch of buddies went to like the midnight showing or the Thursday night showing. And I remember walking out just going, fuck, that sucked.
But what was your reaction to seeing the third one?
Dream Warriors?
Yeah.
I said it was probably my favorite one next to the original. We could talk hours upon hours on Dream Warriors, but
I will say I have read the book Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors. And the book is as good or maybe even better than seeing the movie.
Yeah, if you like reading.
It goes into more details and it adds more characters, adds more Dream Warriors to the mix.
If you like reading.
Yeah. There's audiobooks.
If it's not on the screen, who fucking cares? It doesn't count. It's fodder. All right, so we are here to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street, released on November 9th, 1984, directed by the late, great Wes Craven, written by Wes Craven. It stars John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Heather Langenkamp, Amanda Weiss, Nick Corey, Johnny Depp, and Robert Englund. The monstrous spirit of a slain child murderer seeks revenge by invading the dreams of teenagers whose parents are responsible for his untimely death.
How'd this movie do, Don?
It was made for a $1.1 million and it grossed $57 million. So not bad, Mr. Craven.
Did you know that classic nursery rhyme that we heard in the beginning, who that was written by?
Who was it written by?
Heather Langenkamp's boyfriend came up with that.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. So the nursery rhyme that is spoken by the little ones. Earlier this week, the listeners may not know this, but I'm a school teacher and I teach 4th grade math. And one of my students was commenting that they were up at 11:30 finishing up their math. And I'm thinking, what the heck are you doing up at 11:30 at night finishing up your math? I said, you know what I was doing? I was watching A Nightmare on Elm Street. And then right after that, one of my other 4th grade students immediately said, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4. And I'm thinking, how do you know that song? A little 4th grader. Why do you know that song? Have you seen A Nightmare on Elm Street? And they wouldn't answer me.
Because you made them feel like they were in trouble.
A 4th grader watching A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Well, I was probably in the 4th grade when I saw it too, and look how I turned out.
I'm just thinking now I have more hope for that future generation.
There you go. Yeah. I tried to get Elise to watch this with me, both of them, and she wouldn't do it yet. So.
And then yesterday, 2 other 4th graders, I heard 2 other 4th graders singing, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. I go, why do you know that song? And then they said, such and such taught it to us.
Spreading like wildfire. That's what the fear of Freddy does. I'm telling you.
That's how he spread throughout other people's dreams.
That's right. That's right.
It was the myth of Freddy.
Well, it is, and it's Halloween, right? So it is kind of fitting. So good on those 4th graders. I like it. I like it. I like it. Where did Wes Craven come up with the idea for Freddy?
From what I have read, Wes Craven first came up with the idea based off of an article that he read about a group of Southeast Asian refugees from the Hmong tribe, and sorry for the pronunciation, several of whom died from horrific nightmares. The group had come to the U.S. to escape the murderous reign of Pol Pot. And I guess what happened was they were in the U.S. for about a year. And these are guys in their 20s and 30s. For about a year, they were fine. They were having some nightmare issues. Was forcing them to stay up. Almost at the 1 year mark, they were finding that these refugees, the only men, were waking up in the middle of the night. They would scream and then just drop dead. So Wes Craven read this article, heard about it, and thought about people dying in their dreams and how that could become a great slasher movie.
Yeah. And so the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street was born. He based Freddy off of a guy he saw when he was a kid. Him and his brother were in the house, and he looked outside, and there was this old creepy guy looking up at him. And the parents go out, blah blah blah, and he goes to waits about 15 minutes and goes back to the window, and the guy's still there. And Wes Craven said that had stayed with him forever.
I think he was wearing the Freddy hat.
Yeah, I think it was a fedora. And he gets the name from a bully.
Yeah,
from school.
A guy who did a paper route on his block too, and it was a bully named Fred Krueger.
Yeah,
and he's used that name before in a previous movie. There was The
Last House on the Left.
Yeah, there was I guess the bad guy was named Krug.
Yeah,
never saw that movie. Was it a good one? Have you seen it?
No, it's very disturbing. Very hard to watch.
Very hard to watch.
Yeah.
Do you know where he got the idea for the sweater? Like why it's red and green?
Because it plays havoc on your eyes.
Yeah, it's supposed to. He read somewhere that the two most contrasting colors are red and green. You put them together and it makes people feel uneasy, which is why I don't like Christmas.
I was going to say, it just makes me think of Christmas.
Wes Craven also read somewhere, I guess apparently he reads a lot, that animal claws, like a lot of people are afraid of getting clawed by an animal. So he wanted to create something that kind of represented an animal claw.
And it always bugged me that they called it finger knives in the movies.
Yeah.
Or razor knives or razor fingers or something. They never called it a claw. There's always been the claw.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be, I guess, fishing knives. But if you watch the opening of Nightmare on Elm Street, you see he uses steak knives.
Totally. And we had those steak knives growing up.
Did
which, again, scared me even more. All right? So.
There is a whole curse to the glove, too. Did you guys read up on that?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
They're all cursed.
Well, pretty much every person that ever tried on the glove cut themselves. When in the remake, when Jackie Earle Haley was wearing the glove, he cut himself a few times and cut other actors accidentally.
Well, newsflash, that's what's going to happen when you use real knives.
Yeah, supposedly when you try to make a fist with it, people were cutting their own arms with it.
Again, real knives.
Yeah.
I don't know why everyone's so shocked. I wouldn't call it a curse. I would call it a lack of common sense.
The first glove actually got stolen, and they say that that's how it ended up in the Evil Dead movie, hanging in the shack as a tribute because of in Nightmare on Elm Street, Heather's watching Evil Dead, but that's how it ended up in the shack because it went missing.
Yet another shameless plug for Evil Dead.
I know.
Do you
remember that I gave Evil Dead an extra half bonus point or a quarter of a bonus point because of the claw, and that was the only reason why I gave it the score it did?
Yeah.
Fucking Evil Dead. Thanks, John. Thanks for all of those awesome tidbits.
Do you feel smarter?
We should have like a dun 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 John's Corner, and then he can come out and give all this shit, and then at the end, dun 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 dun. You've been listening to
John's Corner.
Up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And for you listeners out there, if you can tell us what movie that came from, you will receive a high five. In the early 1980s, a psychopath named Fred Krueger, known as the Springwood Slasher, murdered several children with a glove outfitted with straight razor blades attached to the fingers. When a foolish decision by a judge sets Krueger free, an angry mob of parents whose children he terrorized and murdered burned Krueger alive in the boiler room where he worked. Years after his death, the living children of the parents responsible for Krueger's death, including Nancy Thompson, the daughter of the police officer who arrested Krueger, experienced terrifying nightmares involving a burned man wearing a glove with razor blades on the fingers. The ghost of Fred Krueger haunts their dreams, and when Nancy's best friend Tina dies violently in her sleep during a dream confrontation with Krueger, Nancy realizes she must find a way to stop the evil psychopath's reign of terror or never sleep again. End movie. All right, so the opening of this flick, what'd you guys think? He's making the glove.
I think all of the openings, with the exception of the second one, they did just a great job to draw you. And I love the building of the glove.
Yeah, in this opening shot where we've seen it for the first time.
And like in the third one, which of course I had to watch last night, she's building the house. There's always like a building kind of theme or something going on where, the victims are dealing with their pain of trying to stay up and all that.
Yeah. We're talking about the first one, though.
Yeah.
So not the third one.
Oh, we'll get to the third one.
This is the last time I want to warn you. Okay. I will fucking gut you like a pig.
Could the third one count as my food movie?
No, that would be the fifth one.
Oh.
All right. So I got to say right out the gate, Wes Craven does such a great job of painting this picture of the world we're about to enter. I think the opening is creepy. I think the sound or the score that's coming in over it is creepy. It just made my skin crawl. Even when I watched it last night, I appreciated it more, just the way it kind of takes you back and the way it looks. I mean, I love this fucking opening.
Professor, did you have something specific that you liked?
Mm-mm.
Did you not like this movie?
I enjoyed the movie.
You enjoyed the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this, Don. Would you take the Freddy from the first movie that's kind of dark, quiet, remains in the shadows most of the time, or the Freddy that we know and love, the one who makes the quips and the one-liners Which do you prefer best? Which is your favorite Freddy?
It's an interesting question because without one, you don't get the other, right? But I think if I had to choose, I think I go with the darker Freddy for sure because he was scary to me at the time, and he is kind of what a boogeyman or a monster was really like. When he invades Tina's dream and he's chasing her down the alleyway or what, just the way he moved, it was just so creepy and everything about him. When he became a joke, then it was a fucking joke, right? So yeah, darker for sure.
I have to agree with you. The darker version was the scarier version, and I liked the idea of building up the fear. As each movie went on, he became more of a humorous side character he was stalking them, he was killing them, but doing it in just a humorous way that there was no scare factor left in the movies. You were just waiting to see what the next one-liner was coming from him until we got to the new Nightmare when he kind of started bringing back that murderous Freddy.
Yeah. Which, again, we could probably do a podcast on every single one of them and probably talk forever. But yeah, so what did you like about the movie?
Oh, I loved everything about this movie. I loved, like I said, again, the concept of Freddy was so much different than any other slasher. I loved the personality. I loved the idea that people couldn't get away from him. I like that opening with the building the glove and getting to see kind of the Springfield slasher side of it, that, he was something before he was killed and put into the dreams.
Right. Yeah. What'd you like about it?
I thought it was very amusing how he would pop around and come in and out. I appreciated him a lot more on screen in the first one when he was only partially on screen. When he is entirely on screen, his whole body, for whatever reason, he didn't feel as menacing. So watching him, run at you, I wasn't as, I didn't find him as menacing. The elongated arms, that was good. I really like it when there is less of him on the screen, a little bit like the way we have less of Bruce the shark in Jaws. Yeah, less is more. Yeah, and I thought that he played a lot stronger, being a menacing factor that we couldn't see, rather than having him running.
Yeah. Agreed, 100%.
Him sticking to the shadows, I agree with you, was kind of a better take and gave a better mood to this movie. What did you think of the character casting in this movie?
I thought the casting was pretty spot on. You get your typical archetypes for your 80s slasher film. And we're introduced to Tina, who we think is probably going to be the final girl. And they psycho us and kill her off, which he does again in Scream. And then Nancy becomes our final girl. And I think Nancy, lover or hater, becomes, what the final girl ultimately becomes, right? Years before you have Laurie Strode, even before that you have Sally from the Texas Chainsaw. But Nancy was more of a thinker.
She had moxie. She had grit. She's going to fight this.
Yes, absolutely. And when I think one of my favorite scenes, and I really never picked up on it until I watched it again last night, but I think one of my favorite scenes is when her and Glenn or when she figures it out and she wants to go to sleep and look for him, but she has Glenn watch guard over her
and fail.
Yeah, but we knew that was coming. But the way she approaches it and she says, I'm going to go in and look for him. She does it with such determination. She goes, I'm starting maybe not to be afraid, but let's go check this shit out. And I think she is probably the best final girl ever in horror film lore. But that's just my opinion.
She steels herself for the task.
Yeah.
What about Johnny Depp's first movie?
Johnny Depp, I thought, was fine. What Johnny Depp goes on to become, it's fun to go back and watch him in something like this. And apparently he would have been in New Nightmare had Wes Craven called. So, but that's neither here nor there.
Do you know how Wes Craven ended up picking him over other Glens?
Yeah, his daughter, Wes Craven's daughter, said, he's hot, Daddy. You got to put him in a movie.
He's dreamy.
So there's Johnny Depp. And I thought his take on Glenn, the boyfriend, I thought he did pretty well. The bit where they're spending the night at Tina's and he has the fake airplane sounds to fool his mom. I thought that was kind of funny.
That was cute.
Yeah, and he's got a little he's got some cute one-liners here and there.
I liked how when Heather shot him down, when Nancy shot him down, of Tina and Rod go off to do whatever they're gonna do, and he kind of looks at Nancy and she's like, not happening.
Yep, very straight to the point, not happening, and he accepts it and he goes to bed, and yeah.
I do want to say, I have met Heather Langenkamp, one of the nicest celebrities you will ever meet in person. I was at a hotel getting ready for a convention and she was checking in and I fanboyed like crazy. I saw her in line waiting to check in and I actually went up to her, which you should never really do to a celebrity. You need to give them space, especially when they're just getting to check into a hotel. But I went up to her and just told her, just flat out spewed all over her saying, I loved you in Nightmare on Elm Street. You're one of my favorite scream queens. I love everything that you do. I've been a fan of yours since you were on TV. She turned to me, she just gushed, and she gave me a huge hug and immediately insisted that we take a photo together.
Oh,
So it was so nice. So just my love for her grew 100-fold from that.
I'm sure that's not all that grew.
Well, I think her husband was standing next to her. So
Hey, man, the heart wants what the heart wants.
yeah, but she was just so excited. I mean, she was very humble. She was like, wow, I didn't even think people would recognize me. And I was like, of course I'm going to recognize you. I've watched you in Nightmare on Elm Street 1,000 times.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Another thing I really appreciated about this movie was we had talked about this, I think, in earlier podcasts, but you have your kills and then you have what happens in between the kills and us getting to the kills. I think this movie did a great job of keeping me engaged in between kills, more so than the ones that we've watched previously. Just the story and like we were talking, the characters and it moved at a really good pace and the nightmares were tense and you could kind of know when you were in the nightmare. And then there were times that you had no clue, like the classroom scene. Yeah, so I really appreciated the in-between moments in between the kills.
I agree with exactly what you're saying is they did a great job of the fake out, which is, are they dreaming? Are they awake? Are we in the dream? Is Freddy about to jump out or what's going on? Because, the people would close their eyes just for a second and you think, okay, did they just fall asleep? Is Freddy about to hit?
Yeah, I totally appreciated that as well, that you can be on edge because you don't know if you're in a dream or not.
Now, the other interesting thing I read was the guy that played Rod. I guess they found him. He was a homeless guy and a homeless actor before, living in his car before he was cast in this movie. And he was basically a drug addict and was doing drugs throughout the whole filming. In fact, the prison scene, he's completely drugged up and that's why he looks all sweaty and he's a little bit out of it because he was really out of it at that time.
Yeah, well, it worked.
Yeah, it worked for him.
I guess that's like one of his biggest regrets. And I can't remember if he's still alive or not, but there is a great documentary called Never Sleep Again. It's a 4-hour documentary about all 7 Nightmare on Elm Streets and the productions of each one. And we talked to the directors and actors, and I think he's on that. And I think he talks about that.
And how many times have you seen that documentary?
I've seen that twice.
I need to see that one.
4 hours. I've seen it twice, but anyway, that's just me.
One of the things that I liked was the false sense of security of having Nancy's dad being a police officer, plus the fact that it was John Saxon who played a badass in Enter the Dragon.
Absolutely fucking John Saxon.
So having John Saxon in there being a police officer, I felt really kind of almost safe.
Yeah. Well, until they showed us that all of the police officers and adults really are kind of inept, right? How many times does she have to scream out the window and the guy's looking at her like,
maybe I should go get the captain.
Yeah, the lieutenant. Yeah.
That's one thing about this movie that always cracked me up. This whole movie series is that all these kids keep either dying in their sleep or committing suicide or whatever. And they all keep telling the parents it's Freddy's fault. Yet throughout the whole series, none of the parents ever believe him or catch on.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
And
we
if you're
killed him.
dead, you can't come back. This is the really real world. He can't come back.
We're not talking The Crow. We're talking Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, you get my point, right? The adults think that he's dead and you can't come back from being dead. You're right. They tell him 1,000 times.
Nancy's mom was a complete train wreck. She
Oh
was
my gosh.
she was awesome.
Yeah.
Pulling a bottle out 8:00 in the morning,
Carrying it
Having
around
one-
with her.
having one in the linen closet.
The alcoholic much?
Do you know what what TV show Heather Langenkamp was in before Nightmare on Elm Street?
Just the 10 of us.
There you go.
Yeah, dude. Did you know that Just the 10 of us has 3 of the Elm Street girls on it?
That I did not know.
Yeah. I'll let you figure that out. Listeners, if you know who they are, send them to us in the comments and you will receive a high five.
In general, I found the movie enjoyable to watch. It's a fun watch.
Yeah, it moves pretty good. It's paced really well, right?
Yeah.
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 Excellent. Excellent. So, John, what didn't you like about the movie? You're all gushy over here.
The way the movie was set up, like I've said before, I love the dark. I love the shadows. When it got to the point of the stretched out arms, I felt it looked very puppetry and very hokey, and I felt like it could look a little bit better. Every time I get to that scene, I just feel that one pulls me out a little bit just because how fake it looks.
Well, lucky for you, it's in the beginning.
Yeah. So that's of all the things, that's the one thing I don't like. I know Wes Craven wanted the movie to end before that final scene of the kids getting in the car. He wanted Nancy to win and that be the end of it. And everyone else wanted him to put the extra scene in so the possibility of sequels. I'm glad that he put the extra scene in, even though he didn't like it.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. Okay. By putting that stinger in negates everything that Nancy just went through.
Mm-hmm.
And she was such a badass, and we want Nancy to win. I want Nancy to win. I'm with Wes on this one. They got in the car, drove off, and then maybe Nancy looks out or maybe sees the rope skippers or maybe something just a little bit more subtle if we have to have a stinger in there. Because Bob Shea, like you said, that was New Line Cinema, and he was taking a chance because nobody in Hollywood wanted this script. Nobody wanted a Nightmare on Elm Street. So Bob Shea takes his chance, and him and Wes get into this thing about the ending, and it actually causes bad blood between Bob Shea and Wes Craven for quite a long time.
Yep.
So I agree with Wes. I think we should have left it the way he wanted it, but we got what we got. And I think if there's only one thing I really don't like about that movie is that ending stinger.
Well, the reason why, like I said, why I like it is, when Nancy defeats Freddy and saying that this is a dream and I'm going to wake up now, and she wakes up, we then find out she's still in a dream. And I kind of like that idea that who's in control? Is Nancy in control or is Freddy in control?
You can look at it that way, but you'll never get the answer. Well, you won't get the answer until 1987 because 2 goes a completely different way, and that's that. So if you like a very ambiguous ending, well, then good on you.
Yeah, and I also didn't like I liked them getting in the car and driving off. I didn't like the idea of, the claw coming through the door and pulling her through the door. That, again, to me, looked very fake.
Yeah,
That's
looks hokey.
That's one of the one things I'll give to the second movie is that the Freddy coming out of the mirror in the second movie, I felt, was a better way to kill off the mom than pulling her through the door.
Oh, you're talking the remake.
The remake.
I got you.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah. What didn't you like?
I think that having the ending be the ending, I totally agree with you. Having Nancy be all of what she goes through is for naught. It would have been better if Nancy would no longer be haunted by this. It's okay to have Freddy go someplace else, and he has no power over Nancy.
Right.
I would have liked that.
Yeah.
That would have been okay.
There's more than one family in Elm Street that are responsible for his death. Why is he just picking on the Thompsons? Right? Because, the backstory. Freddy's this child murderer, and the parents track him, or he gets off, he gets out of jail on a technicality. The parents of Elm Street track him down of all the kids that he abused or murdered, and they burn him alive. So, the Thompsons can't be the only one.
But they do kind of say in the second movie why he's specifically drawn to them.
I didn't watch the second movie.
In the second movie, well, in the first movie they even covered, the glove is hidden downstairs in the Thompson house. Now, in the second movie, that's why he possesses, I think his name is Jesse, because he's drawn to the glove. And so, yeah, he basically is, that's the pivotal point. That's why that house is the pivotal point for him. What did you not like, Don?
The ending.
Just the ending?
Yeah, well, that, and this is my favorite horror film. I don't think it's necessarily the scariest, and it's certainly not that scary now. It still makes me feel a little bit uneasy, but it is my favorite horror film, hands down. If I was going to show someone new who had never seen a horror film ever, this would be the first one I lead with. Which is funny because I did that with Logan and he laughed at me because he didn't find it scary at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think I bounce back and forth. This is definitely one of my top movies, of horror movies. If I had to pick one to go to, it's this one, or occasionally I'll watch one of the Phantasm movies. You ever watched any of those?
oh yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, they're just so different and out there and trying to figure out the puzzles and all that. I also don't mind a little bit of a Hellraiser.
Oh my God. You just fall further and further and further on my list every fucking time we get together for our podcast. Do you do it on purpose? Do you try and think of what's the dumbest fucking movie I could ever name to really get done? Oh, Hellraiser. Are you fucking kidding me, Hellraiser?
You don't like Clive Barker?
Not particularly. Hellraiser 1 was weird. It wasn't what I expected, if I'm remembering it correctly. I think it really doesn't pick up until 2, and then I fucking lost count.
I think the reason why I'm drawn to movies like that is not so much the movies and the stories, but it's the iconic characters that they create. Freddy is obviously number one. Pinhead is another character who's just so different than other characters and created in such a way that he's so memorable. He's another one that I really like. And then the tall man from Phantasm is just, again, another iconic character that you'll always remember.
Yeah, I suppose. Do you know who the tall man in Phantasm is?
Oh, yeah, the old guy.
Yeah. What was your favorite scene?
I don't know if I have a favorite scene.
Is there anyone that jump out at you that you automatically think of?
Yeah, the one that the one of the first ones I almost always think about is Glenn's death.
Yeah.
The water fountain, the waterfall of blood coming from the bed. That's one of the first things I think about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes it, well, in a way it's memorable, but it's certainly, it's not necessarily my favorite one.
Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite scene?
I think it's going to have to be the Tina kill scene. Just the way that it was done so well of getting her to go up those walls. And at that time, we weren't really familiar with that type of design. I mean, I'd never seen dancing on the ceiling. What was it? The old black and white movies that they used to turn the rooms. I had not really seen that kind of stuff. And so the idea of that she's going up the walls and the blood all over the walls and all that, I liked the way it was shot and the way that it was done. The geyser one, definitely a great scene. Definitely memorable. But the number one, building the glove. I just love the opening.
My favorite scene is probably when she's in school and she sees the body bag being dragged.
That looks so good. That was done just right. Having the body bag lying on the floor and then to see the legs go up like somebody's picking it up, and then the flop of her arm afterwards as she's being dragged out of sight. That was a really, really effective scene. That big, long smear of blood going all the way down the hallway that stops at the body bag. You take that in for about 2 beats. The legs come up. The body starts to slide out of frame, into the next hallway. The arm comes out. Beautiful.
Do you remember the 48-hour film we made, Screaming in the New Year?
Uh-huh.
We put a scene in like that, and that's where I was taking it from. That's what I wanted to recreate when Matt carries the actor off by her feet, and I wanted that smear of blood to go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So inspiring me all the time is A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, let me ask you this. This is the things I never got in these movies. You're sitting in a classroom, whether you're awake or you're dreaming, you see a bloody person in a body bag outside the door, it's your first instinct to, I think I'm going to get up and follow that.
When you're Nancy, you are. I got a better question for you. When you're at home and you hear things outside, why go outside and look?
I don't. I just turn on my cameras and see, I can't see nothing. Must be safe. I'm not going out there.
Guys, when you're dreaming, you do all sorts of crazy shit.
Oh, he's
When
so
you
right.
are in the middle of a dream, you do all sorts of crazy, stupid shit, and you don't know why you're doing it because it's a dream.
Have you ever had a lucid dream?
No,
Are you familiar with that term?
I have not had a lucid dream.
That's where you're fully in control of your dream.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great time. I love those.
I will say that there have been times where I've been scared shitless and I have pushed myself to not make that happen.
I will admit something that as growing up, I always kind of wished to somehow have a dream about Freddy so I could fight Freddy in the dreams and I could be like Nancy or be like some of the other heroes in the movies. And I finally did eventually have a nightmare with Freddy in it and about pissed myself. So I failed. Yeah. I would have been a victim.
Yeah, careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Speaking of victim, Jonathan, favorite kill?
Again, going back to what I already said, got to be Tina. Just the fact that, she flies around the room and then the slash marks on her, just so brutal.
Yeah. Sir?
Tina, absolutely.
You know what gets it for me, and we'll make it Tina unanimously, is when she falls. Mm-hmm. After she's reaching for Rod and she's saying, help me, she falls, and then that splatter of blood and just the finality of it when she hits the mattress. Fucking traumatizing, as I told you earlier. So easily, probably my favorite kill in any horror movie that I've seen today.
I love the fact that your childhood trauma is your favorite kill.
Yeah, crazy. And I thought and we'll talk about this in a few minutes probably, but I thought they kind of did an okay job recreating that in the remake, and I like that he paid homage to it again in A New Nightmare. So
we'll get to that.
I'm just saying I like the fucking scene.
We'll get to that. I will say that I also enjoyed having Tina come back after she was dead. That, when Nancy goes to sleep and you get Nancy. And she's standing there in the bloody body bag. It's like, oh,
yeah,
that was a nice pull because it's very unassuming. It's during the day, you're at school, and then
yeah. But you kind of also from that scene, I guess giving Nancy some credit is it shows that Nancy's a hero. She's gonna try to go save Tina, even though she's in a body bag.
She's in a dream. That's why she does the crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I really dug the atmosphere of the boiler room. I thought it was simple. I love the bit when it's the same dream, actually. She's running through the boiler room and then she gets cornered by him. And Freddy, they always say that 80 or Dream Warriors is when Freddy kind of turned the corner and became kind of kitschy Freddy. But there was a spark of it in this scene with him and Nancy when he's saying, come to Freddy, and, flicks his tongue like a snake. And you can see that there's that attitude, right? And that's what we haven't gotten out of any of our slashers in any of our films, which makes him, in my book, the godfather of them all. But I love the fact that Nancy has the wherewithal to know where she's at and burn herself to wake up, and which will become a reoccurring theme throughout all these movies. Burn yourself and wake up.
Did you catch the goof in that scene?
It bugged me every time I looked at it.
She burns the back of her arm, but when she wakes up, the burn's on the inside of her arm.
I am going to shamelessly admit I didn't even notice.
Didn't even notice.
That's
one glaring thing. There's a few others, but
how could you not notice that?
I know. And I'm actually kind of shocked that you just pointed that out and I didn't notice that. That's how much I love this movie. That's what I love it so much. I'm willing to forgive it for its obvious flaws.
After she has the bandage on, yes, but the bandage is on the wrong side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I will also say that we did get a couple of glimpses here of the future Freddy with the one-liners. He had a couple of good one-liners in this movie. One of them is when, I think, was it Tina who said, oh my God? And he pulled up his glove and he says, this is God. Mm-hmm. And then the other one-liner is when he says to Nancy, "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy."
Yeah, after the tongue comes out
So-
of the phone.
Yeah, you kind of get the thing, the whole story. Now, I guess there is a story on set that after they filmed that scene with the tongue coming out of the phone, that Heather Langenkamp asked to take that home with her. And to this day, the people who made the film still don't know why and kind of question it.
I also appreciated the scene when they take her to the sleep study, right? So her parents kind of believe her. They're at Rod's funeral after he gets hung, and Nancy's mom is like, I'm going to get her help. So they take her to the Sleep Institute. Did you guys recognize who that doctor was?
No, sir.
He was the future Roger Rabbit.
That's the voice of Roger Rabbit. And she goes into the dream, and this is where she figures out that she can pull shit out of her dream, which I thought was a pretty cool effect. And then this is kind of what leads her down the path of, I'm going to get this fucker now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I really like that scene, too. Yeah. You know what? I like the whole fucking movie.
So you'd call yourself a fanboy?
Of A Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, he says it's his favorite horror movie.
I know. I feel like I have to point out the obvious to this guy all the time. Anything else about the first Nightmare on Elm Street?
Do we have to talk about the remake?
Well, you made me talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, so I'm going to go ahead and say
That was TJ's
Yes.
fault. That was not my fault.
for the well, okay, I guess we could blame. No, you know what? I am going to fucking blame you. Do you know why?
Why?
Because TJ isn't here. All right, so we are going to leave 1984 and go into 2010, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Don't fall asleep.
Never sleep again.
Death stalks the dreams of several young adults to claim its revenge. A man named Fred Krueger worked as a gardener at a preschool. The parents discover he inappropriately touched and hurt their children, and they respond by burning him alive. They cover up all the details and hide the truth from the children. Years later, the teenage children begin dreaming of a razor-bladed, finger-gloved man who haunts their dreams, killing them one by one until only Nancy and Quentin remain. Together, Nancy and Quentin uncover the truth about Freddy, return to the school, and bring Freddy out of the dream world to end his revenge-filled killing spree in a wrath of fire and flames. End movie. This movie was released on April 27, 2010, and it was directed by Samuel Bayer, written by Wesley Strick and Eric Hessener. It stars Jackie Earle Haley, Kyle Gellner, Rooney Mara, Katie Cassidy, Thomas Decker, Kellen Lutz, and Clancy Brown. It was made for $35 million and took home $118 million. So, you being a big Freddy nut and me being a big Freddy nut, Professor, what'd you think of the remake?
Oh, in general, I thought that this remake sucked.
Oh,
I thought it sucked dramatically. It had no tension to it. It was a very poor movie. In one respect, it does do something that the other remakes I didn't think do. There was some sort of a storyline.
yeah, you could follow it through.
There was a deeper storyline, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, our other two that we did, Texas Chainsaw and Friday the 13th. There's no storylines in there,
Right.
but in this one there is a storyline, and I'd say that's probably the only thing that I thought that gives any integrity to the movie.
Did you like the storyline?
I thought that the storyline was pedestrian. It was mass average. The fact that he was a pedophile, I didn't need that. I didn't want that.
Right.
No.
I guess the original plan for the first movie, for the 1984 version, was to have Freddy be a pedophile, but there was a big case that came out in California around the same time where a school in real life, a pedophile got caught, and there was a lot of action or a lot of incidents with that situation. And so they decided to cut that out of the first movie. I'm glad they did. It's one of the biggest things that bothered me about this movie is in, the originals and in the sequels, you had Freddy as this slasher, the Springfield slasher, and he's a killer, and he's like Jack the Ripper, but haunts your dreams. This movie, they just turned him into a creepy pedophile.
Yeah, when they cut it from the original, I was glad, because all I really need to know is that he was a child murderer. I'll break it down like this. All right. I've always been against knowing the backstories of our killers, right? I don't fucking care.
Same.
Right. The explanation that Nancy gets in the original from her mom down by that fireplace when she shows her the glove, that's all I need. I let my imagination do the rest.
Yeah.
The fact that they made him a pedophile, and the fact that they made that all the kids went to school together and it was really about the kids, they were trying to do something different, a la Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it just wasn't very good. And so I agree with you. I did not like this story. I did not like the art that they took with it. Don't fuck with my Freddy.
Well, originally this movie was supposed to be a prequel, and they ended up making it a remake. And I felt like you were saying, Professor, they made this deeper storyline, but they tried to pay homage to the original movie by refilming almost shot for shot a lot of the murder scenes and a lot of things that happened in the first movie, to the point where it just looked like a new story with redone scenes.
Yes and no. I think that I don't think they were trying to do shot for shot. I think they paid homage on, I would say, at least 2 or 3 things mainly. Chris's death, which is Tina, the bathtub, and the stairs.
They put a blood geyser in it. They did a lot of different things. They had the rotating kind of the room up the walls.
Well, what's the difference?
So I'm just saying they put in a lot of that same kind of stuff in there.
Oh, okay. I mean,
and that's
it was in there. I'm not going to argue that. And so in this film, we get Freddy's backstory, and we get it told in a dream sequence, and he's getting ran down by the parents, and they burn him alive, and blah, blah, blah. And at this point, we know he's a pedophile. What really bothered me is that the kids immediately thought that they had lied, which automatically makes you want to think that Freddy Krueger was innocent. And that is horse shit. He's Freddy Krueger, right? Why are you fucking with this?
That was supposed to be the big twist in this movie. Is they originally, the writer and director wanted him to be innocent, and that he went to evil because the parents hunted him down and burned him alive. And now the movie became all about him seeking revenge.
Oh, that's fucking
But
dumb.
then they decided, during like halfway through the movie, to throw the twist in there again that no, he really was a bad guy.
Yeah, no.
So, I'm glad, that he ended up being a bad guy, but I don't like the direction they took.
Yeah, and again, I don't need the whole backstory. If you want to see a really good backstory of Freddy Krueger, kind of a little bit more than what we got in the original, watch the opening to Freddy vs. Jason. I think they tell it perfectly. They make him creepy enough. It's Robert Englund, and it's great. It's like a 30-second intro. So this movie it was boring. And what I really didn't like about this movie is all the kills. Everything leading up to it was boring. How many times did Freddy invade your dreams? We saw him. There was an interaction, but he didn't kill him. You know what I mean? He just kept drawing it out and out and out. I think 1 or 2 times you can get away with it, but this film does it like 3 or 4 times for every character.
Can I tell you my theory on that?
I suppose.
It's something that he says early on in the movie when she says, "You're not real," and he makes a comment, "I'm real now," is that he's building up their fear each time because he needs to build it up to a point where he can actually kill them. That he's not technically real. He's part of the dream, and their fear is what's making him more real. So that's why he has to kind of build it up for each kill.
Yeah, okay. I'll buy the concept, but it goes on for too long.
Oh, I agree. It drags out.
I did sort of enjoy that the movie opens with a dream right off the bat at the diner. The fact that we jump immediately into a dream, and you could tell within 10 seconds we're opening in a dream. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I did kind of like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that Dean ends up cutting his throat, that looked pretty good.
Yeah, and it was different. We hadn't seen that yet.
Yep.
We don't know what character he's really parallel to. I think he's like an addition, which is come to be expected in a remake. But they kind of do the same thing that Wes Craven did. Kellen Lutz comes from that sparkly vampire movie. And so you would think that they're not going to kill him off so quick. Out of all of those characters, out of all those actors, he was probably the most well known. So they're paying homage to killing off the guy we think is going to go on. They kill him off early, just like they do with Tina and, that whole trope.
The movie that jumps out at me is Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yeah, and that's...
You got your big famous actor, and all of a sudden they just kill him off right in the beginning. I will say that Heather Langenkamp was approached to do a cameo in that diner scene and downright refused. She did not want to be in the movie.
Well, thank you, Heather, for having the good sense to stay out of it.
Yeah, I think it would have been a shame because I think you would have seen Nancy, you would have seen Heather in that scene and want her more in the movie and be sad that she was just part of a dream sequence.
Yeah.
I got to say that all of the dreams that we come into, there's no tension. There's no tension. I have no anxiety. Oh, we're in a dream and we know that, Freddy's going to do something obnoxious in it, and maybe he kills, maybe he doesn't kill. But I certainly thought, right off the bat, oh yeah, this is a dream because, it looks starkly different from real life. It didn't lull us into a false sense of are we awake or are we asleep necessarily.
Right. And I guess to be fair, they try and do that later on in the film after they introduce the concept of micronaps, which I thought was kind of cool. I thought that could work. But I understand what you're saying. Every time we're in the dream, there is no tension. And there are those moments in films where a jump scare is coming. A jump scare is coming, right? And this one, I felt like they tried to build that moment, but then they would show Freddy. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't jump scare you. They would just show Freddy, and that's such a boner killer, right? It just lets all the air out, and you're like, oh, well, Freddy's right there. That's not really scary. And, Jackie Earle Haley is a fine actor, and I think he's good in other stuff, but there will only be ever one Freddy Krueger, and that's Robert Englund. And unfortunately, this film suffers from all of those other films that try to replace icons that were there before them. I just don't buy it. So
I was actually just about to ask you about Jackie of course, Bad News Bears fame. Do you know how he got this role? Like what got him this role?
This role?
This role as Freddy Krueger.
Does it have anything to do with him auditioning for the original?
They actually saw his audition tape for Watchmen.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
They saw that Rorschach character and thought, this needs to be the new Freddy.
Yeah, he exuded no fear. But I will say that I thought that it showed that he had spent some time dinking around with the glove. There were many subtle nuances of him being playful with the glove that I thought that it showed he had spent some time dinking around. What can I do with this prop?
Yeah, that kind of makes it mine. Something different than what England did. Mm-hmm. And it's when he scissors them, right? Mm-hmm. He said scissor. That was new, and that was kind of creepy, I guess. I think that this Freddy is creepy in maybe one or two scenes at best.
At best.
At best. I think the first one, or I think that one of them is when he kills Jesse in the prison. And he, tells him that once the heart stops beating, your brain is still alive for 7 more minutes. And then he says, that means we have 6 more minutes to play. I thought that was really fucking creepy.
That's actually a true fact, too.
Yeah. Thank you. But no, I thought that was creepy. And then he comes across as really pedophile-y creepy when it's him and Nancy in the room and he's trying to be that grossness. And
you're my number one, Nancy. Here's the way I see it. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street movies in the series, there was a part of you that probably kind of wished, kind of hoping for you want Freddy to win. In this movie, when they make him a pedophile, you just want to see him get beat down. You just want to see it end and be over.
I don't know if I ever wanted to see Freddy win.
And you weren't kind of rooting for him a little bit?
No,
I never did.
Not going back and thinking about the the sequels and the way the story nets out, Freddy was always the bad guy, and that's what made him so awesome to me. That's what made him so, he was the character I was scared of. I was never rooting for him. He fucking killed kids, dude. That's fucked up.
Eh.
You mean, eh?
I side with the machines.
Holy shit. If you could... faithful listeners out there, I apologize for John's comments.
Do you know what Jackie's motivation was for this character, Freddy? Like where he got his motivation from and his...
Rorschach?
No, he said that anytime you spend 3 hours in a makeup chair, you're going to be just like Freddy.
That's what Robert Englund said too. He said he was getting his makeup done and he would look over and see Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp in their nice chairs and getting their hair done, and he's getting, doused in KY jelly and putting all this fake prosthetics on, and he said he used that in his performance because he fucking hated those fuckers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of makeup, what did you think of
Nope, I'm going to stop you right
Jackie's
there.
makeup in this movie versus the original?
But what did I just say? So I'm going to stop you right there.
I guess they were going for more realism on what a burn victim would look like as they heal, and I just thought it looked like his face was just melted. It just didn't look.
Yeah, this is
didn't look intimidating at all. Almost looked kind of pathetic.
Yeah, this is the second one of these remakes where they fucked the villain up. Mm-hmm. With Leatherface, it was that stupid fucking mask, and with this one, it was the stupid fucking makeup for Freddy. I didn't like it.
He did not look good.
100%. I really didn't like this film, and it's kind of an insult to fucking Wes Craven and the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many things about a horror film that can go wrong, and there's so many things that, if it's not done right, it's just hokey and dumb, and that's what Platinum Dunes has done to these remakes outside of Friday the 13th. But that's just me.
What should a remake do? Because clearly this remake didn't do it, but what should a remake do? I feel like a remake should be representing a story that wasn't represented before, that adds to the richness of the original story.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. I think for myself, I don't think we need remakes.
That's kind of where I'm at. When is a remake better than your original? It doesn't happen very often.
No, out of the 4, we have one. But can you think of any remake out there, non-horror or anything, that's better than the original?
I have one, but I have not seen the original, and I heard the original was pretty lame.
I have one too, and given when the original was made and the remake was made, I mean, I think John Carpenter did it right, and I'm referring to The Thing. I think The Thing remake is better than the original, because the original was like 1950 something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the one I'm thinking of is Ocean's 11.
Oh, well said. Yeah, I agree with you. Only because, spoiler alert, the original ends on such a downer.
So I never saw the original, but I've read numerous accounts of the original movie that it's really not worth a watch.
Yeah, no, you want a fun Ocean's movie, watch the original, or watch the Clooney.
Coming back to, what's the point of making a remake? It should be something that you want to embrace to tell a better story, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose.
I always thought the remakes were just basically a retelling of the story, but using the technology of today to draw the people in deeper and to have better special effects and just a better way to tell the story. But I can't think of one on the top of my head that has done it right just yet.
Well, it's good that you say that. And that's a good point, John, because that was one of the motivating factors in putting this movie together, was that the technology, the CGI, they thought would be better to give a more sophisticated approach to what the audience is viewing. So specifically at the very end of the movie, having Gwen, to be pulled through the door. No, having Freddy come out and then the blades go through her eyes. I thought that looked a lot better than the original one where she gets pulled through the door.
Agreed. And to counterpoint that, the scene where Freddy's coming out of the wall in the new one looks very CGI-y and kind of hokey.
Yes.
The one from the original was a practical effect, and someone stretching through a stretchy wall looked way better, right? So sometimes, sometimes the update in technology can either be helpful or a hindrance. So it all depends on how you use it.
how you execute it.
Exactly. Can I also tell you another thing that just pissed me off?
No.
Good thing I wasn't asking you, fuckface.
Go
Professor,
ahead.
thank you.
Go ahead.
They changed the house. Did anybody notice that? In the original, the door's kind of in the middle. In this one, the door is all the way on the right.
Yeah, it's all the way on the side.
Yeah.
That bugged you.
That annoyed the shit out of me.
I don't think I even noticed the house.
Really?
Yeah.
And you call yourself a fan. Here's another thing. I like to, like I said,
and another thing.
Like I said earlier, I like the idea of micro naps. However, if Nancy's having these micro naps, specifically the one in the pharmacy, when she gets in the car with Quentin at the next scene, how is she not asleep? How does she stay up? Anybody?
I don't know.
Yeah, see, and it's still things like that. And when they go in and, it's the same trope, they're going to pull Freddy out because Nancy figures out that she can do it. This Nancy kind of stumbles upon how to beat Freddy, whereas our original Nancy goes out and searches for the answers. So I think there was a big difference there. I don't mind Rooney Mara as an actress. I think I've seen some things that she was in that were pretty good, but I don't think that she was a very convincing Nancy either.
Yeah, the story I read about her is she had such a bad time on the filming of this movie. She didn't like when she auditioned for the role. She didn't even really want the part, but she got it. She had such a miserable time, and the fan reaction afterwards was so bad that the actress almost quit acting altogether.
Well, it kind of shows on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shows that she didn't want to be there. So, whatever. Were there anything else that you guys didn't like besides this whole film, besides the film?
I was about to ask you, was there anything you want to point out? I think, like I said, the biggest thing gets to me, especially in that boiler room scene or the dark cave or something, like his secret cave. That pedophile scene where he's kind of climbing on top of her and all that. Just really grossed me out to the point of just not so much of being into the movie, but just again starting to look at my watch and wishing it was over.
Yeah,
I thought Quentin's character, he's supposed to be adding to the movie, but I don't know. He really fell flat for me. He was I don't know. He's supposed to be a champion for us. But he certainly didn't inspire me at all during the story.
Yeah, well, because he was such a wimp. He gave in and caved every time he got in trouble. It wasn't until the end that he actually steps up and does it. But I see what you're saying. He is flat. And the fact that, he's the one that Nancy goes to, he's the equivalent of the Johnny Depp character.
Right.
Right? And, yeah.
Except he can't get a date.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know. Why doesn't he not die? Why does he get to live?
I don't know.
Listen to me. I'm fucking rooting for Freddy now.
See,
What the fuck?
You're on my side.
No, never. I'm never or will never be on your side.
Did you catch the connection to another remake we've talked about, Friday the 13th?
In what?
In the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Did you catch the connection?
They were both produced by Michael Bay.
Well, in the movie.
The guy on the webcam is the same guy.
He's Chewie from Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Aaron Yu.
I thought he had looked familiar. I will say that my eyes totally rolled when I saw Michael Bay as a producer. It's like, oh my God.
I thought that part was, although it wasn't really necessary, it was kind of clever to have him smash into the screen and it just turn off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you had to see that coming as soon as she turned it on and watching videos of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of another thing I didn't like was you have all of these kids all over the country who were dying or whatever, which means they all had gone to the preschool with these kids, whereas in the original it didn't matter, but it was kind of just, it was based on Elm Street and it was those parents and you got the sense of community and this, that, and the other. So I don't know. They tried to keep it the same but make it different, and it just kind of fell flat.
Should we compare the two movies?
Do we have to? I mean, I guess we should.
Well, here's the question. Are the two movies comparable?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess in theory and on paper you can compare them, but I don't think there is anything in the remake that would trump anything in the original for me.
So normally this is the part where I would do a scorecard of trying to compare the two just to see if we even give any points to the remake? I think I already know the answer to every single question. Which one had the better script? Don, you're obviously going to go with the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, you're going to say the first one?
Duh.
Although, like we've said, the second one has more of a story to it, but I think I agree with you, Don, more that it didn't need the extra story. We didn't need the extra background. One of the things I loved about every one of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movies was they just told you his background. You didn't need to see his origin. The thing with that, the movie before the final cut, I think it was number 6, where they revealed he had a daughter and he was a family man. We didn't need to know all that, and that's what really ruined that movie even. Besides the fact that it was redone.
That is so odd to hear you say that, because it seems like so many times you're on the other side.
I'll agree with that. Usually I am. But as I've said before, this is such a unique story compared to everything that it's a new story. And normally I do like to know the bad guy's origin, the bad guy's story of what got him to this point. But with Freddy, you're told everything you need to know. He's a serial killer. He loved to kill kids. That was his target. He was burned alive, and somehow he came back in the dreams.
Yeah. Well,
And the more mysterious, the scarier it is.
Yeah.
The more we know and what we're supposed to sympathize. No.
right. And
Keep it nebulous. Keep it ambiguous. Make it more menacing.
yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure.
according to my scorecard, because I'm guessing, Ken, you're pretty much giving all your points to the first one.
Absolutely.
The only one box that I can check for the remake is the original movie only had 4 kills. The remake had 5. That's the only point it gets. Because I'm obviously, me as well, fanboy for the original series, for the original movie. I got to give all my points to the original Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
Yeah, hands down. Like I said, it's probably my favorite horror movie of all time. So when we saw this on the list of the movies that we were reviewing, I knew right away, this was the one. But it gave me a chance to talk about Freddy, and I fucking love this movie. So there you have it.
And it gives me a reason to go out and buy more props.
For me. So yes. Thanks, John.
If anybody out there wants to sell me like a Freddy silicone cheap mask, I would love to add that to my collection. That's the next thing I'm looking at on Etsy.
Yeah, so as soon as you find that, let me know, and I will take it from you.
Okay.
Appreciate that. All right, so are we ready to rate these bitches?
I think we should.
But hey, Professor, how do we rate our movies?
We rate our movies on a 1 to 5 scale. A 5 is a movie that you are ready to watch again immediately. You're down to watch it anytime. A 1 is a movie that you just saw and said, I'm never going to watch that again. It's okay. I watched it. I did my penance. I'm never watching that again. It's just not worth it. And a 3 is somewhere in the middle. Yeah, you'll watch that again. Maybe you'll own it, but it's going to be not right away.
And a 0?
A 0 is you are so pissed about having just watched said movie that you are screaming at whoever can hear you that somebody owes you 2 hours of your life back.
All right, who wants to go first? All right, I'll go first. I'm going to start with A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Again, I've been saying it all night. I love this film, and just from the opening, the score, the dream sequences, the in-between, the kills, scenes, all of it just works for me. The cast is great. The practical special effects, they age well. I think it looks great today in 2021. Still felt a little uneasy watching it. That it started my love for Freddy and all of these films, and it's that film that I remember my childhood, and every time I watch it there's some nostalgia there, and I think that's got to count for something. So with all of that being said, rewatchability, you could say, hey, let's turn off the mics and stuff and let's watch it right now, and I would say okay. So for that, I'm going to give it a 4.75.
No 5. I thought I might hear a 5 out of you.
Do you want to rate the remake?
The remake is forgettable. I would love to say that the filmmakers had their hearts in the right place, kind of like I did with Solo and other and with other stuff like that. but it just felt empty, and it just drug on, and I could care less about the characters. It did have a couple of bright spots: Chris's death, the conversation with Jesse, the mom at the end, them trying to fill the in between scenes as best they could, but it just went on for far too long. I did give it a bonus half point for all the lines from the other movies that they included in it. There was a couple of lines from the third film that they used in it, and I caught it. And if you were a fan of the series, it was something that they threw in as an Easter egg, which was nice. But it wasn't enough to give it a full point for me, so I'm going to give the remake 0.5.
Okay. I'll go next.
You do that, Professor.
All right, so the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I found it very enjoyable to sit and watch again. It was kind of nostalgic in a way for me to watch it because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it was a very enjoyable watch. I really appreciated Nancy. She is a fierce player in the story, and the fact that she is so resilient and she is not going to shirk away from Freddy, but instead chooses to take him head on. I loved that about the character. She is so good for that because we see that so rarely in horror movies where people are willing to step up at that critical moment. And most of the time, it goes the other way, and you fumble your way through it. But Nancy, she doesn't do that, and I applaud the storyline for that. That was really good. Having Freddy being introduced to us in the movie, wow! What a great character, and I really enjoyed the teasing that we get of little bits and pieces of him, and he's just not shown to us as much as he is. I feel like in the remake there is so much more Freddy shown all the time, and it just takes all of the mystery and the horror away from him because he's on screen so prominently so much. So the original story I feel like it just fires on all cylinders. It's a good, fun movie, and I'm going to give this 3.25. For the remake has so little going for it. The CGI that I was speaking about earlier, the deaths, those do definitely show better. I also appreciated most specifically that, of the other two movies that we've already watched, we have the strongest of the three remakes in a somewhat of a story. There's something of a story in this one. And because of that, I'm going to give it an extra 0.5 on top of my original score. And I found so little to be inspired or to think back. There are lots of little moments in the original Nightmare that, oh yeah, that looked good. Oh yeah. I really didn't get that in the remake. It's all just pretty forgettable. So in the end, I'm going to give the remake a 0.5.
Do you even need to hear my review?
I am eager to hear your review.
Thank you for listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we...
So for me, the idea of what makes a good movie is a movie that, one, you really want to talk about afterwards. Two, it lingers in your brain. And three, like we've talked about before, you really look forward to seeing it again. Like, it's not just one that you come across, oh, it's on, I'm going to watch it. You think, I really need to watch that movie again. And for me, this movie hits all three of those. Since seeing the first one, I have a friend, like I've said before, that we used to watch these movies together. We still, to this day, talk about Freddy, and we kind of fanboy over Freddy. Even today, if they were to make a new sequel off of the original series, I think I'd be there opening night just to see it, even knowing it probably wouldn't be that great and wouldn't take me back to what it was. It's just, he's such an iconic character that still is popular today, tells me that how great this movie was. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5. It's going to be one of my few 5s that I give. Remake, I tried to watch the remake a little bit differently. I tried to imagine that I was seeing Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time while watching the remake. The problem is that's really difficult to do because I found myself again comparing it, Freddy versus Freddy. If I had seen just the remake and never seen the original, I don't think I would have fanboyed as much over the iconic status of Freddy because they had made him creepy, they made him forgettable, and they made it to the point where you just wanted to end and you didn't want a sequel. You just wanted to see him get beat down. And I think that's the pedophile aspect of nobody ever wants to see a pedophile win. And the Nancy and all the other characters, forgettable. You don't want to see them come back. You don't want to. It kind of felt to me like Chainsaw Massacre that I just wanted these characters to go. I just wanted to see them, be taken out one by one to the point where the movie is over and we're done with it. There were times I was checking my watch. Like you've said, how a movie is bad, Dawn. Well, when you keep checking your clock to see how much time you have left. So for that movie, I'm going to agree with both of you. I'm going to give it a 0.5.
Next week, we are going to leave the comfortable streets of Elm Street and we're going to head down to Haddonville, Illinois to check out Halloween and the 2007 Rob Zombie remake. And let me tell you this will be the first remake that we're watching without Michael Bay. So I'm excited for this one.
God.
You know what I'm excited about?
What's that?
A little bit of Jamie Lee Curtis.
All right, so that will do it for our trip down to Elm Street. John, where can they find us?
They can find us at our website, 3guysinaflick.com. They can find us at any haunted podcast or popular or non-popular podcast hosting site. They can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All right, so thank you everyone for listening. Our true believer listener, our listener Ronnie, everyone else there who wants to download. We had 1,000 downloads. We talked about that earlier, so keep them coming. And so for 3 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John, and I'll see you in your dreams.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
So question for you, Don. In the scene where Nancy booby traps the house, do you think Home Alone was a ripoff of Nightmare on Elm Street?
I think that scene was. I think Christopher Columbus was writing Home Alone and going, this would be a good idea. Let's set booby traps. And someone said, like in A Nightmare on Elm Street? And he was like, yeah, let's do that.
A total ripoff.
Yeah, well, that's what I just said. Was that your idea for the end of the stinger?
That's all I got.
Oh, that's all you had?
Did you have anything?
Wow, that was fucking... that was deep, dude. That was fucking deep. I thought I was thinking of something, too, and now I can't.
Well, now you fucked it up.
I know. No, you fucked it up.
God, fuck that guy.
Okay.
No, you fucked.
No, you fucked it up.
No,
You fucked it up.
No, you fucked it up.
That's the most time I think we said fuck. Sorry, Don's dad.
Fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck. All right, fuck off. Good night.